You know, there are a lot of JRPGs that are sitting in Japan that are just, well, sitting in Japan and not localized. It's a shame too, because there are some really great JRPGs that the rest of the world needs to know about. Now, we are at a much better place than we were a few years back when it comes to getting localizations from Japan, but there was indeed a period where it seriously was up in the air if a JRPG would make it all the way to Westeros. Thankfully, we have passed that period of time, and now it's almost no worry if a new JRPG will be fully translated officially in English. But there are still a hefty amount that can stand for a localization. So here I am with 5 JRPGs that need English releases. Now this one is more of a wish list than anything. It truly might be impossible for some of these games to be localized now, whether it's just been too long, or the company that made the game is out of business, or something among those lines. All I know is if a 2012 PSP game, Record of Agarest War Marriage, can get an English release in 2019, then almost any JRPG still labeled Japan only can get a release. Well, I guess that might not be the case for some, but anyway, I hope you enjoy. Let's go. Valkyria Chronicles 3. Simply put, it's a damn shame that Valkyria Chronicles 3 never got localized. Coming from someone who has played all the Valkyria Chronicles games in the franchise, Valkyria Chronicles 3 by a large margin is the best Valkyria Chronicles game, even beating out Valkyria Chronicles 4. With all the customization and sheer amount of content with its extra edition DLC, Valkyria Chronicles 3 is a gem of a game. The reason Valkyria Chronicles 3 never saw an English release is because Valkyria Chronicles 2 on PSP didn't sell much, and with the PSP well out the door in North America at the time, Sega just didn't feel it would bring enough profit to localize the title. Fortunately enough, a couple of years after Valkyria Chronicles 3 released in Japan, a group of people would be nice enough to create a full English patch for the game. Valkyria Chronicles 3 puts Valkyria Chronicles 4 to shame. With more classes for your squad, the choice to change any character into any class you want, allowing for full customization to make your ideal squad full of your favorites, and some special commands for main characters, and even a skill tree for even further customization. I mean, sure, Valkyria Chronicles 4 may have scaled the stuff back a bit because it wanted to maybe make things a little less complicated and be more like Valkyria Chronicles 1 in an attempt to return to form, or maybe it just wanted to be accessible to everyone who is familiar with the series. Either way, Valkyria Chronicles 3 feels like a complete package, a game that takes everything in the series that I had prior to make which felt like at the time a final swan song to the series. Legend of Heroes: The Crossbell Games. The Legend of Hero games are some of the most ambitious games the JRPG genre has seen. It consists of 3 games of the In the Sky series, and a total of 4 games in the Cold Steel series, and 2 games known as the Crossbell games. All these games connect to make a greater grand story. However, the 2 Crossbell games still reside in Japan, and from what I can tell, we will probably never see an English release. And if they did, they will only be releasing them on PC, as the 2nd and 3rd Trails in the Sky games did. A lot of people who are really into the Legend of Heroes games will tell you that the Crossbell games are a necessity to play in order to continue playing the Cold Steel games. In my opinion, I think you'll be able to get by the latter half of the Cold Steel series without them, but I can't deny that it will add a nice layer of lure and attachment to this series if you play these 2 games. Fortunately enough, we do have an English patch for both of these games, and if you are in the know, you know how to get them. So for the hardcore fans who are willing to go out and search, the option is there. But having an official English release will allow for even more people to play the game. Soul Trigger. Soul Trigger is a game made by the now bankrupt game developer ImagePog. The company met a rather rocky end, to put it lightly, but Soul Trigger was a game I was highly looking forward to upon its initial release in Japan. With nice character designs, fairly good graphics for a PSP game, turn-based combat that I can always get behind, a story that felt dark with a colorful cast of characters, Soul Trigger for me looked to be the perfect JRPG to sink my teeth into. This was another game that suffered from coming out for the PSP at the end of its life cycle in North America. There does exist a partial English patch patch, but it's far from perfect, and I hear towards the end of the game a good amount of it is still untranslated, and it seems the translation group pretty much gave up on completing the patch. I did try playing the game with the English patch, but once I heard the game wasn't fully translated, I decided to stop. It's unfortunate, but that's the risk of fan-made translations. The people working on the English patch have no obligation to finish or keep working on the patch. So if they have troubles in real life, or hell, just felt like stopping, they can. I feel in this day and age Soul Trigger would do pretty well on a platform like Steam or even the Switch. I feel many of you would really enjoy the game. Grand Knight's History. Grand Knight's History was a game that was announced to be coming to North America in 2011 but got cancelled in 2012 because of the lack of resources by Xseed Games. A real shame too, as I was really looking forward to playing this game. Being developed by Vanillaware, you guys know that I was interested in the game, as Vanillaware is probably one of my favorite developers. Thankfully it has a full English patch and you can play the game if you're in the know, but it does deserve to be played by a wider audience. The combat consists of standing on a grid field and attacking your opponents with skills and magic that are governed by a pool of AP for all 4 characters that you can bring into battle. The story consists of siding with one country and trying to train your created characters to send them out to participate in a large-scale war. That's the basic setup, but I know just for the art style and combat that this game is worth the play. You can also say with the release of Grand Kingdom that getting this game localized might be a little pointless, as Grand Kingdom can be considered a spiritual successor to this game, and that game in and of itself is a very underrated JRPG. Phantasy Star Online 2. I remember Phantasy Star Online 2 being the first MMO that I was actually going to get serious about. This was of course before I saw Terra and Blade and Soul, and I wanted to play those for reasons. Phantasy Star Online 2 deserves an English release not only because it's a really good MMO, but it was promised to the cult following that it has that it would be released, and it just never was. Back in 2013, it was announced that the game would be released in English, but just remained silent and pretty much just let any hope of it releasing go right down the drain. The game was released on PC, Vita, PS4, Switch, and even on phones in Japan, but outside of the land of the otaku, nah, Sway. Of course there is a method you can use to play the game and even patch the main menus, but it's just not the same, and to be honest it's a little bit of a hassle. But it has excellent combat, it has a great aesthetic, and this game could have been or could be a way to reintroduce the rest of the world to Phantasy Star games, but it probably will never happen. I mean, Dragon Quest X is an MMO and that has a better chance of releasing in English at this point. Speaking of which, why didn't I put that game on this list? I don't know, something's wrong with me. So maybe I should have called this list PSP games that need English releases. As I said, this list wasn't really paying any attention to the history of the company or how low of a shot the game has of actually releasing in English, but really it was just a wish list that might come true against all odds. I'm sure you have much better games that you want to see come from Japan. Mother 3, Bahamut Lagoon. Be nice to know if my filthy weeb choices are inferior to yours. So go ahead and let me know. As you know, the like button is there if you enjoyed this video. Sub to the channel if you want to see more lists like this, JRPG updates and rant videos, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace!